Mm. Hey guys, and welcome to this week's Mondays with Mel. I am so excited to be with you guys tonight. Go ahead and start sharing. This is going to be a great segment tonight. As you know, we have been talking about fatherhood from different perspectives, and tonight is going to be our third and final night. And I am super, super excited about tonight. So as you know, on Mondays with Mel, we normally do a mental health and wellness topic that is devoted to raising awareness to help each of us along our mental wellness journey. And so go ahead, like I said, and start sharing. This is going to be a great topic. Tonight, we are going to get a little personal. We are still talking about fatherhood, and we are talking about it from the perspective of the stepdad life. And not only are we talking about it from the perspective of the stepdad life, but we are talking about it in a very, very personal way, because I'm being joined by someone very special to me, which makes it very special. So you're going to get a chance to not just hear about stepdads and blended families, but you're also going to get a chance to have an inside look at our lives, the life of myself and my husband, our family, because we are a blended family. So we're going to talk about the stepdad life. So like I said, go ahead and share. If you are a step parent, if you know of step parents, if you know anything about blended families or the challenges that come along with that life, because you know there can be challenges when it comes to dealing with step families and step kids and parents and biological parents, and just kind of blending the whole thing in. So we're going to go ahead and get started, but like I said, share this with anyone you think that could use this on tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest for tonight. He is very, very, very special to me. Okay, guys. So he is a producer. He is an engineer. He's a studio and audio engineer. He is a music composer. This is also African American Music Month. So, he's all things for the month of June. He's also he plays the organ. He composes music. He can play with all 10 fingers. The dude is amazing. But above all, he is a father. And that's the side of him that not everyone gets to see on an everyday basis. So please help me welcome my husband, Patrick Preston, to Mondays with Mel.
All right, we here?
Yes, we are here. Are you here?
I am here. Is there any echo or anything going on?
No, I think we're good. We're good.
Cool.
So, you're in the studio.
I'm in the studio.
We're in the studio. So, it's Father's Day is coming up soon, and it's also Black Music Month, and so yeah. So you get to cover a lot of things this month, right?
Too many things.
Too many things. So I want to go ahead and get started and I want to start with this definition of what we really are, right? So the
Right.
definition is blended family, because I think sometimes people, they know the term blended family, but it's also step family or reconstituted family or complex family. And it is a family unit where one or both parents have children from a previous relationship, but they have combined to form one family unit. And that is exactly what we are. And I will say that most people don't even realize that, because we don't really use the term step
Right.
in our house and in how we operate. And so I kind of want to start though with dating,
Okay.
because and so for everyone who's listening, let me preface this by saying that he didn't want me to tell him the questions. So this is his first time hearing the questions. Okay, so
Okay.
so
Drink some
before
water first. Hold on. All right.
you ready? Your mouth dry?
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay.
I'm ready.
So all right. So before we became a blended family, of course there was dating. And considering your background, because I talk a lot about backgrounds and how people grew up and how that formed who they become. So considering your background, 2-parent home, church boy, preacher, musician, Bible belt, do you think you had any biases towards dating someone, or just in general with dating females that already had kids?
Absolutely, I did.
Mm.
Yeah, that was like the biggest thing on my list, honestly. I'll be honest, I always equate myself. There's a movie called Shallow Hal. I think Jack Black played in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he like saw people a different way, just on the strength of them not being the type or his type or whatever. And so like that's how I was. I was very, very shallow when it came to that. I didn't want the drama either. I didn't want the drama that came along with it. What I do appreciate about the past 3 weeks is that you have identified the politically correct way terms as it relates to like the different fathers. And
Mm-hmm.
I forget the first one that you did, and then you did one last week. But that was never a thing for me. Like I can't preface that enough. I was like, no, if you got a baby, then that's that's just something I wasn't want to have to deal with at all. So
Okay. So, all right. So I'll ask this question, and I'll ask this question to the audience. When you're dating, audience, and you already have children, how long into the relationship do you wait until you allow this potential partner to meet your kid?
yeah.
So I really want the audience to weigh in on that question, because I'm saying that because I think that a lot of women, and if somebody can type that in. So the question is, if you are dating and you already have a child, how long do you wait before introducing that child to this potential new partner? That's the question.
Right.
So the reason I'm asking that question is, most of the time women, we're very careful, especially if we're serious, we're very careful with not wanting to introduce our children to just anyone we're dating. We want to make sure it's a serious relationship, that it has longevity. And so I remember I was very careful in having our, and I always say our, because again, we don't really use the term step. So I was very, very careful in not wanting our oldest to meet you.
Right.
And I'll be, yeah, and I'll be honest, so she just turned 18, and you met her when she was what, around 3?
4 years old.
Yeah, 3,
Just
4. So you met her at a rehearsal that I was singing at, and I didn't.
Let's get the facts straight. It wasn't a
Oh,
rehearsal.
here you go. Here you go.
It was a vocal lesson.
Okay, I was at a vocal lesson. All right. Okay. So she was with me, and you weren't supposed to be there. And you showed up. And your cousin, who I was taking vocal lessons from, introduced you to her, and I was floored because I did not intend for you to meet her at that time, right? So in knowing that, it's really funny because this morning when I was reading my devotional, I was reading about Mary and Joseph. And I was reading about the part when Joseph found out Mary was pregnant, right? And it's not his kid. And so Joseph is like, I'm out. And so the angel is talking to him. And I thought to myself this morning, I was like, man, Joseph is a stepdad. And he had this inner conflict. He had this inner turmoil that he never shared. So the question to you is, in that moment, because we had been dating, you knew nothing about Nia at all.
Nope.
So she came out of nowhere. So in that moment, what was your inner turmoil? What were your inner thoughts in that moment when you met this little girl that you didn't know existed?
Well, first, I didn't think how I thought I would. I didn't take it how I thought I would take it. I definitely, like I said, I was very, very shallow at that time. So I really, when I saw her, I was like, she's so adorable, and she was so articulate and everything. And so, while you guys were in the voice lesson, my cousin was like, why don't you walk her outside and y'all just hang out for a little bit till when we wrap up. And even in that moment, for whatever reason, I didn't feel like, okay, she didn't tell me this. I didn't have those thoughts at all. But I knew it was going to be a conversation. Let's believe that it was going to be a conversation as soon as you got done with that vocal lesson.
Oh yeah, I was mad with your cousin too.
Yeah,
I was hot with him.
But like, I honestly, it was almost kind of like the feeling of you saying, I won't do, I will not, I will never do this. That's how I felt prior. And then I was confronted with it, and it was just kind of like a totally different feeling in that moment. So just like right there in that moment, I didn't be like, you know what, don't call me no more, because you didn't tell me the truth and But I think I understood it after we had a conversation about it. I know you kind of like segueing, so I don't want to like go too far off.
You're so kind.
So, but like, it was really kind of one of those things like, we definitely gonna have a conversation about it, but I was willing to listen. Now I went from this will never be my life. Whatever child I raise is gonna be the one that my wife give birth to. And so that was my thought prior. But like I said, it was different, and I could wait to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the conversation, and I couldn't help but understand uh, for primarily the reason for me, like I've never been in a situation, but I know how careful I am, and I know how private I am, to a certain extent. And so like it made sense to me. So it was never a thing of, you know what, this ain't gonna work. It was actually an asset because it caused me to have to like look at courtship and relationship in a different way. Yeah.
Did you ever think that people would talk about you?
Oh, they did. I didn't think.
What?
I knew it was going to happen because, and especially coming from where we come from, there's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot of time that we have in a day that we are idle, and so sometimes conversations come up. Um, you may see us in the mall somewhere, and then it's like, where that baby come from,
You went and got with that church girl that had a baby.
Right. That church girl had a baby, and he like, I don't know what he doing with his life now. So I again, I kind of went into the situation knowing that there would be people that had things to say, and a lot of it would be based off of something that I have kind of set as a standard. Like I said, like, nope, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so I thought he said he was going to do this, but he's doing something different. And so, yeah, they talk, but it was never a thing of like that, like being a thing that got in the way of the relationship and got in the way of my love for, Nia. So.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. I was looking up things on stepdads, and there was a saying, it was a definition that was for gifts that were specifically for stepdads. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was very similar to your relationship with Nia, especially, the way in which you had these conversations with her when you were getting ready to marry me. And so the definition said, stepdad, the best kind of dad, a dad who became a role model, teacher, and friend, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Mm-hmm. And so, in thinking about, as you said, we were dating, and then dating turned into serious talk about marriage. Right. And I remember trying to talk you out of it. Right. Remember, yeah. I was trying to talk him out of marrying me because I knew I came with baggage. He wanted to marry me. And he was a good guy, and I knew I was a package deal. And so the closer we got to this engagement, the more I kept saying, hey, look, we could just be friends, because, if you get me, you get her, we're not going anywhere, we're a package deal. And I knew it would be complicated. Right. And I think as many women do, because we already have all of these thoughts and all of these, all of the guilt, right? There's guilt.
What kind of thoughts and what kind of?
So wait, hold on.
I know you're the host, but I'm just saying.
So, like, what are you doing?
You just kind of put it on out there. I'm just.
Didn't we talk about this already?
Just saying. All right.
So, okay. So thoughts of being afraid, being afraid, being afraid that you would leave, being afraid that you would think it was too much, that you got in over your head, because you didn't have any kids, that you wouldn't want to deal with a biological dad, that in that entire situation, that you wouldn't want to deal with a kid who may one day say, but you're not my daddy, or those types of things that I thought would happen. And because I was so afraid, I at all costs just kept thinking, okay, let's just not even do this. This will end badly. So what was it that made you stay and choose to want to parent a kid that you didn't create?
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of conversations with myself. Um, I mean, marriage is a big deal, just within itself. But just as you stated, like, you was a package deal. You came with a 4-year-old, and at the time, like, I come from a big family, so like there were like kids that just popped up out of nowhere. If I could just be honest. Um, like, we didn't know who they were, we didn't know who they belonged to and all that type of stuff. But I always like, once we found out, it was just like, we family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that type of just being surrounded by a family like that helped me to just kind of like really deal, not necessarily, I say deal with it, but just be able to handle it and have an understanding of what I was getting into. I did talk to a lot of family members. I have, relatives, they have some similar situations as we have. So it wasn't foreign to me, even though it was something that I didn't see myself in.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of use those situations and say, like, this is okay. Like, I don't have to be in a position where I'm just like, I'm gonna run from it, because at this point we were already in love. And at this point, I knew who she was, and at this point Nia and I had already had conversation, because she would call me daddy, and then she'll call me Patrick. And I'll never forget it. We were in a grocery store one day, and she was like, daddy, I mean Patrick, I mean daddy. I was like, wait a minute, okay. I said, let's do this. Let's figure this out today, okay? Today. Let's figure it out. I said, it doesn't matter what you want to call me, but today, whatever you call me, that's what we're gonna continue on. And she was like, I want to call you daddy. And I was like, okay, well, that's what it's gonna be. And from that moment on, it was not a thing of my hangups about marrying someone
Mm-hmm.
that already had a child. It was more so nurturing, just trying to, nurture her, and just give her like that father figure, like in that space, because this is what it was going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
and so, yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So Rhodey said, I think this is to me. She said, why were you afraid? He proved he loved you. Okay, so to answer that question, I think, as with many women, sometimes, a lot of times, and my truth was, there was guilt that for a long time I didn't deal with. And it probably wasn't until we had been married for a while before I even really realized the depth of what my problem really was. And so I think because I was afraid that who I had been, because I don't think I ever really forgave myself for having a kid out of wedlock, because I did grow up in, 2-parent home. I was, my parents are still married. I grew up, you know, over music ministry at my church, singing every Sunday.
Don't forget the Bible Belt.
Yeah,
Come
Bible
from the
Belt.
Bible Belt.
Listen, my dad wanted me to get up in front of the church and apologize. That's how it was when I was pregnant, because he was, one of, kind of the premier leaders in our church. And I, even at a young age, was always, a leader in our church. And so it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. And I didn't do it for a long time. I refused. I refused to apologize. And eventually I did. I went before the church, like they did in the old days, and apologized. But I think it was things like that, and knowing that that it happened. I think there was just a part of me that never forgave myself for quite a while. And then because her biological dad and I didn't have the best relationship, it was always kind of off and on, and strained a lot. And so that made things difficult. And so I always felt guilty that I could not give her this happy be with your mom and your biological dad life, right? And I always felt like that was my fault. So yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, somebody else mentioned. I just saw a question. I don't know.
Listen, now the questions are supposed to be for him, not me.
Well, I think they were asking a question for me too. It was in reference to the relationship with the biological father. Can we deal with that?
Yeah. That was actually next, because I wanted to ask you what's been some of the challenges. So let's go there.
And so, like, for me, again, I'm kind of a non-confrontational person just by nature, and I just made a decision to just say, I'm gonna be there regardless. Like, it's not gonna be any kind of friction when he's around, or whatever the case may be. So it's like, even to this day, like, there's been times where we've taken her out, taken her out for lunch or whatever, and both sat beside her. So it was never me wanting to be the dad so much that I kept her away from her biological father. And I think that's something too, is as men, if you're getting married and you're getting married to someone that already has a child, I feel like it's still your responsibility to be open to what's going to happen, or what may happen, what may not happen, whether he calls on a birthday, he doesn't call on a birthday, or whatever the case may be. Always just be open and be honest. If a situation arises, be man enough to talk about it. But it doesn't have to be this thing that some sometimes stereotype as it relates to blended families and that whole thing. So Nia has never had to want for anything as it relates to daddy being there. Because anytime she wanted to go, go down and visit him or hang out, or he came up here, I would make sure that I was out of the way, because I know that this is something, even I can give her everything. I can give her a ton of things, but that's one thing that separates me from her. But I never make it to be this big mountain or whatever, because she's growing up. And I think when kids grow up, that's when they start kind of recognizing certain things, like our kids now. And that's another thing too. Our kids, when they were younger, so we have two other kids, 10-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. And they used to ask questions like why she has a different last name, or like what's, so is her daddy, so is her daddy my daddy too? Like, no, baby, no, no. uh, but
Or do I
you
have
have
two
those,
mamas?
yeah, so I got two mamas and two daddies. But kids are going to be kids, and they're going to ask those kind of questions. And I think just being open and honest with the whole thing, because and I say that, and I might say it again before this is over with, but I think it's important to be open and honest up front in the beginning. Culturally, we come from, how can I say it? We used to know how to really keep a secret, just in general, as it relates to things like this. That's why when you was talking about, having to stand before church, that's stuff like some people probably on here right now, probably up here in the Midwest or in some other areas, they like, what?
Like, I would never do that.
Crazy. Like, I'm not telling, they ain't got to go before no church, but like those are some of the things we had to deal with and just kind of confront, if you will. So I just say it like this, and it is really important to just be upfront and honest at the beginning. How you feel, like if you really don't feel like you can get along with the biological father, those are things that you need to handle quick. You need to handle those things quick, so it won't be any kind of confrontation. So when he wants to see her siblings, or she want to call them, or all that stuff, it's not a like throw the phone here, call them, or that type of stuff. So it's like, it's important to like really be upfront and honest and open and just transparent as you can with your household, especially your household, but just in general with all parties that are involved.
Right. So Miss Bridget has a question. She asked, has Nia ever felt she was being parented differently from the other children by you?
Yeah.
Care to
Just
elaborate?
I give me a second. Why don't you answer? I got a couple thoughts, but go ahead.
So I would say yes, because I think the reality is, no matter how well you love a child, no matter what you do and how you care for a child, when there is a biological parent that's missing, there's always a piece of that kid that's missing, which is, unfortunately, if there's not a good relationship with that child. And I think in our particular situation, what we've sometimes seen is what comes across as I'm being treated differently, is really, I'm feeling out of place, but I'm feeling out of place all the way around. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I'm feeling out of place in this house, but I feel out of place based on that house as well.
Right.
So if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's the what I was saying earlier, just in reference to like being open and just like to the process of all of this, because I can't really say that we parent them differently. I think I'll say we probably parent the younger two better because Nia was first, and
Yeah, we were just a
so
mess.
we know I definitely didn't know what I was doing. So like from that standpoint, yes, but like to what Melanie was saying is those type of things go through their minds, and they might kind of keep them keep them to themselves. When she's down there, that she'll come back and say different things about how they live, which they live fine. I'm not saying it in a negative way, but it's just two different households, and so it's two different set of rules, and it's just two
We're very
different.
conversational.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so whereas we talk a lot, they may not talk as much as we talk, in the house. Like they they may not. So it's like having to understand those type things and just accept certain things. You just accept personality differences and all of that type of stuff. You just accept it. But I can't say that we like loved on our younger two more than we do Nia. It's always been the same. And sometimes the younger two are a little bit jealous of Nia, because
Mhm.
especially baby, like Olivia, when I say she'll throw fits because she'll run in Nia's room. I know this is sidebar, but I gotta tell it. But take her fingernail polish, and you can smell it all over the house. And Nia confronts her about her fingernail polishes. She's like, "Cause I want to be like you, cause you have everything."
Mhm.
So, so like, I can't say that we do anything different. I just know that, again, like that's something I've never dealt with. Um, and so I just wanted to be open to the changes and all of that stuff. So
I will say, I believe honestly, a lot of times the moms are more in the way than the stepdad.
come on, be honest now.
I'm trying to be delivered. Yeah. So yeah, I do. I believe
Yeah.
a lot of times the mamas are more likely to be the problem than than the stepfather. I can remember times in which you have been the even kill in our house, um, especially as
How many times?
most of the time, dear. Most of the time, okay. Let's be clear. Most of
All
the
right.
time, you are the even kill. But seriously, I think that is sometimes the reality, because um, I think when you go into a marriage and you already have a kid, there are challenges we as women face going into the marriage, um, in which we have to choose to let you be the dad, right? And that doesn't always happen. So there's the challenge on that end of not of us not having the child treated differently, because we in our mind have this thought of it's us because we were here first, and
Right.
then there's this new family that we've now created together.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's this thing in us in which we feel like we have to still protect the kid we had before we came into the marriage.
Right.
So sometimes we enter a marriage and we never allow our husband to really parent that child. So sometimes we make it bad, and
Mhm.
we separate that kid.
Right.
And so I think I had to learn very early that that was not the way. And because you were so chill and so loving, it was easy to do. But I realized I was the one that had the problem. I think I was the one that had more challenges, because there were times when I felt the need to protect, or I wanted to step in a different way.
There's
um
definitely some control there. Yeah. Yeah, no. I
yeah,
mean, no,
yeah,
it was, and it wasn't. I never took it as a like this thing that was gonna like cause friction between us. I recognized it firsthand, but it was kind of like meeting her at your voice lesson and having to find out that way. So it was like the I already knew that there was some control, not I wouldn't say control issues. I'm jacking up words right now, but like just in reference, you just wanted to make sure that you were covering her
yeah,
and not having her in a space and place that wasn't normal, that wasn't like her comfortable situation. So
right,
I never took it that way. I recognize it, and I'm just like, you ain't got to do all that now. If we had to get on to her, like we both could get on to it. You ain't got to just do it all by yourself. Like we in this together. So, but I do remember that being a thing for
hmm,
quite some time.
right. Someone actually,
Not even from the uh, like the chastising or whatever, just the discipline piece, but just like you feeling the need to be at every like well or like taking her to school and picking her up from school, and she has this and I got to do it, but and I was just like, well, if you have to do something else, or we can go together, or like, no, don't worry about it, I got it, da, da, da. So but I think that was a habit that was already developed. That was a you'd already developed that nature to do those things prior to. So
right.
yeah.
I remember the day, I think we were talking about you keeping the kids for something, and you said to me, you don't you said, I don't have to be asked to keep my own kids.
Hey, yeah, I was like,
Like
what?
Nia, like any of them. You were almost offended, because I think I can't even remember the context of the conversation. I don't know if maybe I was going out of town for work, or what it was, but I think I was willing to cancel whatever it was, and you just kind of like, you just kind of say, babe, I got this, like, they're our kids, like, what are
Hey,
you saying? I It's not a job. Like, I live here,
right,
we do this together.
right.
um
But I think, and I can't speak for women, but I am going to speak for women that I know and who I've been around and experienced, like my family, my mom, my sisters. It's in your nature to nurture. That's a
right,
tool. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, but that it's like it's in your nature to nurture, and so um, like you do it without thinking about it, and so I think that had a lot to do with it. Again, I never took it as a like this is gonna be hard. No, it
right,
was like I see what it is. So
right. We have another question. Crystal asked if you were ever uncomfortable disciplining Nia. Was that
ooh, no, I wasn't. Not at all. Not at all.
Now, did it ever cause friction between us? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because and that's something I guess okay, because we were talking about the marriage piece, and so like we come from. It's so funny. Like we lived about 15 minutes away from each other. We born and raised 15 minutes away from each other, and never even met before. Um, but what I'm saying is like we both come from different backgrounds. Where I come from like a big family. Um, you were like the only child for
20
a
years.
while. So say what?
20 years.
Yeah, you got your sister. So like it was a different dynamic. So it was like things were going to be different. I think that's something family plays a big part. The good, bad, and ugly. Family plays a huge part in how your relationship goes. So it's
Right.
like, you know, and I say it's two thoughts. So of course you want the family to like you, but then like also you want to be able to understand each other's backgrounds.
Right.
Whereas, kids can go outside and play, and I know a certain cry when I hear it, and I know a certain scream when I hear it. But for the most part, they can turn flips, jump off trees or whatever. I don't care. But you, on the other hand, a little different.
I'm a little different.
You kind of flip the blinds down and be like, what are they doing? What are they playing with? Who they touching? Of course, right now, coronavirus, she ain't letting the kids out. So, but but I think our backgrounds have a lot to do with um those things. So even like the way you nurture her, like I nurtured Nia in a different way,
Right.
but it all kind of works together. So
Right. So any other challenges? Or do you think those have been do you think we've covered the biggest ones?
um I guess going into it, yeah, we covered all of that. But I will say that they do grow. They grow. They become teenagers, and here recently, Nia has become an adult, and so
Yes.
thank God she'll be going to college this fall, and but once again, so it's like those different backgrounds. When I got out of high school, I was not going back home. That was just kind of my thought process. I was like, I don't care how bad it got, I wasn't gonna go back home. Um, she's trying to be close to us. So she thinks a little different. So we're gonna just hope you guys pray for us on that whole piece. But no, but like they grow up too. And I think those same issues or those same variables that we dealt with going in, there's a different perspective. So like even with spending time with her biological father, she's growing up, so she doesn't see him as much. And we live in two parts of the US, so it's certain things that like she deals with, um that once again I can't really help her with, but I can just kind of be there for her. And so, but I mean, I think it's not a one trick pony thing. I could say a ton about, just the growing and developing part, but I think it's different for every family. I think what's most important is just having the compassion and openness about, you know, it all. Again, I come from a family that didn't talk. As big as we were, we didn't talk about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, and I think you do well with that because it has helped me a lot as far as just opening up and just having just real blunt conversations.
Thank you, dear.
Like who you dating, like what you got going on. Like this don't align. So back to Crystal question, like yeah, we check her, and I don't feel any different with checking her and checking Nehemiah and Olivia. It's the same thing, and so it's like, but I think being able to have the conversation is important, so you know how to navigate things. You learn how they feel about stuff. you know.
Right. Right. Okay, so we're getting ready to kind of go into our last topic, but I want to read these stats before we do that. So these stats are about how common blended families are today. So the stats say that 1 out of 3 Americans is either a step parent, a step child, or has some other form of a blended family in some way, which means almost 100 million people. It is estimated that more than half of all Americans either have been or will be included in a blended family during their lifetime. It is estimated that 2,100 blended families are forming daily, not yearly, but daily in the United States. And guess what? Stepdads are more common than stepmoms.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the stats. And so as we get ready to wrap up, each week I've asked each set of dads about our current racial tensions and social injustices. And of course, I'm not going to end tonight any differently. So as we have been, going through, these current social injustices, what are your thoughts? I know I posted a picture of us at the march yesterday, and kind of shared just some of our experiences and some of your experiences, just being a Black male. But how do you think that these racial tensions and social injustices affect who you are as a parent? Like, what does that mean for you?
I feel like you kind of pumped me into answering this question. I've been like toiling with the idea of going live and talking about a couple of things, and I did see the post today. It was hard for me to get on social media today. There were about, I'll say it, and it was before noon. I saw that there were 5 individuals, whether I knew them personally or from afar, that passed away, and it wasn't all due to police brutality. It was just one was coronavirus, and another one I didn't get information. So it was like today has been really challenging, and I did see the post that you put up in reference to, like, I had my hand. We were marching yesterday, hands up, don't shoot.
Oh, shoot.
And I think it's been a challenge raising kids, because especially in this climate, because we just never know.
Right.
We just never know. For every situation that somebody be like, oh, they they're just playing outside. You just never know. You just never know if a police officer is going to come up and do something different. But back to that picture, and you talking about the big old black man. I don't know.
The big black guy.
Big black guy. Yeah. And so it's so funny, like, as this situation that's been like a recall, it's almost like it was necessary in order for people to understand us, understand African American, because there's some conversations that I've had with individuals that we probably never would have had a conversation about race and about different backgrounds and about different things. And I said all that to say, like, there was a situation that happened. I had to share this situation with an individual. It was a white guy, very good friend. I love him like a brother. But like so many, it's hard for them to understand, because they don't walk in places and spaces feeling scared or feeling like someone is going to look at them a certain way. So I had to share with him this situation that happened to me, and all my kids were in the car. I think we had a one of the vehicles were in the shop or whatever. whatever the case was. So I had to make rounds, pick up everybody. And we were coming down the street, was taking a left turn, and there was some road work being done. Well, you can take a left turn, but because of the road work, there was a sign that says no left turns. I didn't see it until I took the left turn. It was too late. So what I did was, it was kind of in a nice neighborhood. Um, Police were behind me. They pulled me over. So I just made sure I kind of got out of traffic, turned down this neighborhood. It was two officers came up, and they it was almost as if I really could have went to jail if I didn't have the right temperament. I could have went to jail. So picture it: the three of our kids in the back seat. They've never experienced anything like this. My father, who passed away a few years ago, he was a chief of police in our hometown, and so I know how cops are, but um, I never experienced anything like that. When they came up to the car, of course, one of the car seats was in the other vehicle, and so they noticed that one of the kids were out of the car seat, trying to speed the story up. But anyway, I was like, "Yes, sir, I'm aware of that. We're just trying to get home, and then go pick up the vehicle." And so he was like, "Well, calm down, calm down. There's no need to get hostile." And I said, "I'm not hostile." Like, what did I just? And so I looked at Melanie, and then I turned around, I looked at Nia, and I was just like, "Well, here's my license. Whatever you need to do, I totally understand." But it's like, well, there's no need to raise your voice, and you can calm down. Do you have any warrants? Like, you have any, like, no, I don't. And the other cop was on the other side, like on the passenger side, with his gun on his hip, holding it like I wish something would jump off. So as I was telling my friend this story, he was like, "I'm sorry, man. Like, I've never seen anything like that, man. I've never had that type of experience." And I said, "This is what we deal with on a daily basis. This is what we deal with." And so again, like, there's so many, Atlanta, I I hate that it's still happening. Is it still happening? Um, Sometimes I'm like, literally, I'm pissed off. Sometimes I'm like hurting. I have so many different emotions, but that's where I am. I don't have I don't have a way of just kind of sewing this thing up, because I really feel like people need to know as much about what's going on. Don't like, yeah, I mean, some of it can become depressing, but I feel like there needs to be a conversation. If you don't know something, you should find someone that has experienced it.
Right.
Because there are many people from different races. They may only deal with their race on a daily basis. They may have lived in certain communities where there was probably only one Black person.
Mhm.
And so they don't know, but that's not an excuse either. And so for as many people, I don't care what race, you need to understand what's going on right now. You know, I'll never forget it. We're coming up on Juneteenth, right? Yeah,
Right.
coming up on
Right.
Juneteenth. And I was posting pictures about Juneteenth last year, and maybe year before last too. And a white guy came. Well, he hit me up on Facebook. He was like, "I don't understand what that is." I was I was I was so anxious to have the conversation with him, because so many people don't know what Juneteenth is, and they don't know what. you know, they don't know what some people don't even know what the Middle Passage is.
Right.
Some people don't know about Jim Crow. Some people, like, there's a lot of history that's repeating itself in different forms. And it's like, instead of me like shunning those opportunities, I want to have the conversation. So,
Mhm.
So.
And I think as we get ready to wrap up, one of the things that we offer as advice, as techniques, not just for ourselves, but to any family, as therapists, and to families of color, is like you were saying, teaching our kids, teaching them to make sure they know about their history. That's one of the most important ways that as we move forward, that we will be able to move forward with pride, and being able to instill in them resiliency, and knowing who they are, because now more than ever they need to know who they are, not just these pictures that they see,
Mm-hmm.
but really knowing their history. And so I think, as a dad, you do a really good job of trying to teach our kids history, and making sure they know where they came from, and about the NAACP, and about our roots and their roots in the deep parts of Mississippi, and just kind of instilling those things in them. So like I said, we're getting ready to wrap up for tonight, and I want to thank my guest for being with us, for being so gracious to share his heart on tonight. So thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out with us, for another segment of Mondays with Mel. If you've not liked the page, please do so. Please share. A step parent or a blended family that you think this episode may be encouraging for, please make sure to share it with them. Normally Mondays with Mel is at 2 p.m. And so we'll go back to 2 p.m., but we will be on a break for the next 2 weeks. So we will see you guys back in July. Have a great night and stay safe, guys. See ya.